Hi all, today we can talk about the poem Our Casuarina Tree by Toru Dutt. Our Casuarina Tree by Toru Dutt. You know that Toru Dutt is one of the famous Indian English writers. Toru Dutt, despite having a short life, she made her poetry to live long as a testimony of her literary credentials. So she had a short life, she had a short literary career, even though that was a great contribution to Indian English literature. She was born on March 4th March 1856. 1856. Uh, she was not only a poet but also essayist, translator, and the first Indian poetess to write in French and English. She had written in both French and English languages. She contributed regularly to the Poets' Corner of Bengal magazine, the Calcutta Review, published a series of English translation of French poetry between 1874 and 1877. So everything happened in 18th. Although she died at her tender age of 21 in 1876, not in 19th. You need to note the point is that 1876. So 19th century. 1876. She has produced an impressive collection of poetry and prose within her short span of life. Within her short span of life, she had contributed a lot to her impressive collection of poetry and prose. Look at the date. She was born in the year 1856 and died in 1876. Casuarina tree, it's a common one for every Indian. Let us go through the lines. Like a huge python, winding round and round, the rugged trunk indented deep with scars up to its very summit near the stars. A creeper climbs in whose embraces bound no other tree could live. But gallantly the giant wears the scarf, and flowers are hung in crimson clusters all the boughs among, whereon all day are gathered bird and bee, and oft at nights the garden overflows with one sweet song that seems to have no close, sunk darkling from our tree, while men repose. The first stanza gives a vivid picture of a huge tree, a huge Casuarina tree, and what is happening to this. What are the other things we may see in a old Casuarina tree? That is what mentioned in first stanza. The poem is an ode to the Casuarina tree that poetess had in her garden back in her motherland. Poet addresses a Casuarina tree which was there in her garden, not as in this picture. A huge Casuarina tree was there in her garden. So it is considered as an ode. We might have heard many odes. Odes of John Keats, like Ode to Grecian and Ode to Nightingale. So though it is not mentioned in the title, the poem addresses a particular object, that is the ode, that is the Casuarina tree. So this can be considered as an ode to Casuarina tree that was there in her garden, in her motherland. The memory of the tree is the only link she has left with her past, and the cheerfulness of her formative years. So the main memory she keeps in her mind about her childhood experience, that is this Casuarina tree. So this Casuarina tree is existing as a landmark of her childhood days, childhood memories as in her mind. The first stanza describes the tree having a rough skin and bearing garlanded by vine having flowers. So the outer sheath of this Casuarina tree is very rough, that you can see in the picture, and you might have seen it directly. So it's a rough outer sheath. The bark of the tree is very rough, that we know. A rough skin and being garlanded by vine having flowers. It rings around trunk like a snake. The creepers and other creepers surrounds this tree. This describes the strength and courage of the tree, which is still standing tall. So the first stanza describes the strength and courage, the bearing capacity of the tree. So the tree is something that stands as a huge, what we can call a tower-like thing, standing tall. The tree seems to symbolizes vitality too. The tree seems to symbolizes vitality, which is transmitted to the flowers, which attracted bees and birds to the tree. So we can see the tree is not as a one object. In that tree we can see a collaboration of many things. There are creepers and flowers in that creepers, and that flowers attracts bees and birds. So we can see a multiple things in a single object, and it is altogether centralized to the tree. The whole scene is of a harmonious whole, with each part being inextricably linked to the tree. So each of these parts, each of these creatures, each of the things that is out of the tree is highly linked to the tree because of its appearance, because of its great existence as a central element of these things. The first stanza of the poem begins with the image of the tree. The poet remembers the tree being warned by a creeper like python. So the creeper is just mentioned as a python, that kind of a hard one, a strongly gripped one, like a python. Its hold was too tight, for it had left the scar on the trunk of the tree. So the outer sheath of the tree has the scar, many scars on this outer layer, the trunk of the tree. So symbolically it mentions what this Casuarina tree is existing for a long period, and it has many scars since it has gripped many creepers, python-like creepers. The poet further states that no other tree would have sustained old as this, for it's too strong. But her tree did. Also, the tree has proudly worn those scars like a scarf, representing its strength. So these scars are the scarf of the tree, like the strength. So the tree bears a lot of things, and this lot of bearing of this lot of things is considered as the capacity, the capability of the tree. That much of strong is the tree. To further describe its strength, the poet says it is filled with crimson flowers in every bough, like a crown that invited birds and bees. So the tree attracts many birds and bees because there is crimson flowers in the tree. So it's also a quality of the tree to bear these kind of flowers. Often night, when the poet could not sleep, she used to listen to music that filled her garden as if it has no end. There was endless music that comes from the tree. That comes from the tree means the tree bears many birds, and these birds makes the sounds. So birds sounds is the bird sounds were endless sounds. Poets heard it when she was a child. When my first, we can continue the line. When first my casement is wide open thrown, at dawn my eyes delighted on it rest. Sometimes and most in winter, on its crest a grey baboon sits statue-like alone, watching the sunrise, while on lower boughs his puny offspring leap about and play. And far and near kokilas hail the day, and to their pastures went our sleepy cows, and in the shadow on the broad tank cast by that hoar tree, so beautiful and vast, the water lilies spring like a snow enmassed. The second stanza is continuing what is mentioned in the first stanza. The first stanza is exclusively about the tree and its holdings. When it comes to the second stanza, we can see how is the poet visualizing the object that is near, that is surrounded to the tree. In the second stanza, new animals like a baboon and birds are introduced that extol the beauty and nourishing nature of the tree. So the tree's beauty already mentioned in the first stanza. When it comes to the second stanza here, the outer elements that is not touched or connected to the tree is also contributing the beauty of the tree, nourishing nature of the tree. Even the tree's shadow provides refuge to the lazy cattle around the flowering lilies in the water tank. So other elements you can see other images. There is a water tank. In that water tank, water lilies are there. So these water lilies are given the shades by the tree. So for giving shade, it's also very good because of its a huge size. The second stanza of the poem details the experience of dawn which delighted the poet. So every morning poet used to watch the tree, and she got delighted by the appearance of this tree and its surroundings and the things that she can see in the tree. Every morning as she opens her window, her eyes rest on the tree. Her eyes possessed the beauty of the tree, the vision of the tree. Her eyes rest on the tree and delighted. She presents the picture of a changing scene with the seasons. So the tree bears many changes. That's up to the season. So that means the tree is highly connected to the changes of nature. Sometimes during other season and mostly during winter, she has seen a baboon, a large monkey, sitting on the top branch like a statue waiting to receive the first array of the sunlight. A beautiful image that what she always saw in her childhood. That is what she explains. A baboon sitting on the top branch, and it is awaiting the arrival of sun. She used to open her window in early morning to see the sight, see both the sides, the arrival of sun and this baboon sitting at the top of the tree. Whereas his puny offspring plays around in the lower branches. The offsprings, the children of this animal, baboon, is playing around the lower branches of the tree when this baboon stands at the top of the tree alone. And along with this beauty, this scenic beauty, the poet also experienced the sound, the welcoming note of kokilas, bird kogila, koi, welcoming note. She has also observed the cows guided towards the pastures than other creatures. The cows guided towards the pastures, and the water lilies spring under the shadow of the hoar tree like gathered snow. So this tree is supporting. The tree is one of the reason for having a pasture behind the pasture down the tree, and the water lilies given the shade from the tree, and that bloomed the shadow of the hoar tree like gathered snow. So the tree is not a single object. Tree is having the collaboration, having the combination of many objects that you can see. We can go through the lines. But not because of its magnificence. Dear is the Casuarina tree to my soul. Beneath it we have played, though years may roll. O sweet companion, loved with love intense, for your sakes shall the tree be ever dear. Blend with your images, it shall arise in memory till the hot tears blind mine eyes. What is that dirge-like murmur that I hear? Like the sea breaking on a shingle beach. It is the tree's lament on eerie speech that happily to unknown land may reach. In third stanza, the speaker turns more subjective in the memory associated with the tree, not what is apparent in the picture, and she talks about her memory that is connected, that is associated with the tree, especially her childhood memories. She comments on why the tree will remain a dear to her always. The tree is very closer to her, very dear to her, because besides the morning bliss, the tree reminds her of the time she played with her siblings. When we talk about her siblings, there is one thing very important is that she had an early death because of the disease like tuberculosis. The same disease was also there for her siblings. They died first, and she faced the death of them, and Toru Dutt herself was also having this kind of diseases, and she had to say goodbye to the world in her age of 20. So the memories of her siblings, that is also connected with the appearance of the tree, because she used to play with her siblings around the tree. So this tree is an image that makes her some familiar remembrance too. Poet in tears. The poet mourns of those departed souls as she thinks down the memory lane. So she recollects the sight of departed souls, her departed siblings, her that is, and she imagines that the tree shares her loss, which she hears a dirge-like murmur. So the sound she can hear as it is said by the tree is also the what we can call the mourning of the tree, M-O-U-R and mourn, because the tree is also having a sorrow as she has, resembling the waves breaking on a pebble beach. So the tree's sound is like the waves that reaches in the shore, on the shore. That is what here mentioned, like what? Shingle beach in that line. Pebble beach. We can continue the poem. Unknown yet well known to the eye of faith. Oh, I have heard that wail far. Far away in distant lands, by many sheltered bay, when slumbered in his cave the water wraith, and the waves gently kissed the classic shore. O France or Italy, beneath the moon, when earth lay tranced in a dreamless swoon, and every time the music rose before mine inner vision rose a form sublime. Thy form, O tree, as in my happy prime, I saw thee in my own loud native clime. Fourth stanza says about what? In the fourth stanza, the poet presents an in-depth connection with the tree. Poet goes very detailed from first to fourth stanza. That is what we can see. In-depth connection with the tree through the images of waves. She takes us to the foreign land which is unknown yet well known, where the waves gently kissed the classic shore. The poet makes us go or helps us to go through the images of waves. She takes us the foreign land which is unknown yet well known, where the waves gently kissed the classic shore. So waves kissing the shore, that is what she explained as she touches, she has a connection with the tree. Though she went abroad, foreign lands, whenever the music of the waves touching the waves rise, whenever the music of waves touching the waves rises, it arouses the memory of the tree in front of the poet's eye as she has in her youth. So after her childhood, she had to work, she had to go to France, Italy. Though she spent her remaining days in other countries, the image of tree existed always there. Like every time she goes or every day she recollects the sight of the tree, and this recollecting is here simply compared as the arrival of the waves in the classic shore. Continue. Therefore I fain would consecrate a lay unto thy honor, tree beloved of those who now in blessed sleep for air repose. Dearer than life to me, tree is dearer than life to me. Alas, were they, mayst thou be numbered when my days are done, with deathless trees like those in a Borodale, under whose awful branches lingered pale fear, trembling hope and death, the skeleton, and time the shadow, and though weak the verse that would thy beauty fain. O fain rehearse, my love defend thee from oblivion's curse. My love defend thee from oblivion's curse. So this is the final stanza. In the final stanza, she tries to conclude all the images, all the recollections of the past she had about the tree. The speaker wants to erect something in the honor of the Casuarina tree. Herself shows the respect towards the tree rather than the friendliness. For those who were beloved, who are resting in peace, loved it. She wants the tree to live long like the trees of Borodale, making difference to the Wordsworth yew trees, making a reference to the Wordsworth yew trees. So Wordsworth wrote about yew trees in his poem that was in Borodale. The trees were not having death in that poem. So she wishes to make the tree a everlasting one, something that persists always like trees of Borrowdale, that is the yew trees in Wordsworth poem. Also, she makes an attempt to distinguish the tree of England and from the Casuarina tree, connecting to her varying emotions. Though she spent her days in England and France, even though she compared the trees of England and France with this Casuarina tree, but she could not find a grip what she always feels with the thinking of Casuarina tree. Casuarina tree stands for nostalgia, longing and memory, whereas the tree of England reflects only her isolation. So it's not about a particular tree. So the trees in England makes her to feel very lonely, but the trees in India, especially the Casuarina tree, makes her present in her childhood, in her happiness, past happiness. The final lines of the poem underscore the idea of a poem as written memory. The poet seeks love to protect the tree and her poem from time's ravage. She does not want to this tree to have many changes of the time. She wants to make this tree always standing tall like this, standing strong like this. So this poem explains these elements. In the last line, she mentions about oblivion's curse. That is, she says, "My love, defend thee from oblivion's curse," expressing her wish that love shield her tree against the curse of forgetfulness. Oblivion's curse is mentioned as that forgetfulness, that the tree be remembered out of love and not because of it cannot be forgotten. So oblivion's curse is the inability to be forgotten. So my love defend thee from oblivion's curse. So my deep love, my intense feelings, my deep love towards this Casuarina tree may exist forever. That's why it is mentioned that my love may defend thee from oblivion's curse. So all the images she has that is connected to Casuarina tree may exist something that is very strong, not to be forgotten. That is what she says about oblivion's curse. Oblivion's curse, that is known as the inability to be forgotten. Right. So this is the poem, and we can go through the main points of that once again. The poem is taken from Ancient Ballads and Legends of Hindustan, 1882 published. The poem is one of the most famous poems of Toru Dutt, and it describes a tree near the speaker's home that she associated heavily with the memories of her childhood. So mainly she starts with her childhood and her siblings that have since died. So I told you that she lost her siblings. That is what she mentions in the line, who now in blessed sleep for a repose. A repose is also the sleep, the long continuous sleep. So her memories of her siblings that sleeps in her mind, and she recollects it when she sees the tree. The word "our" in the title hints that this significance. It is not just an ordinary tree for the poet. That's why she calls "our" Casuarina tree, but rather a part of her life, like a family member, and an integral part of her childhood that she shared with her siblings. So she used this tree as a link that helps her to reach in her childhood, and that helps her to reach her in the life that she spent with her siblings in her childhood. Poem's opening line. This poem's opening line lines describe the grandeur of the Casuarina tree, the greatness of a Casuarina tree in a minute detail. Standing erect and wearing the scarf of the creeper. So they experience the long-lasting capacity of the tree that makes her to wear the scarf of the creeper that clutches like a huge python. The scarf, the marks on the body of the tree that clutches it like a huge python. So someone may misunderstand that there is a huge python crawling to the tree, or that is rounded to the tree. The tree is a source of life that's filled with birds and bees. Not only the tree, birds, bees, and the children who used to play under its branches are long gone. The liveliness that surrounds the tree is further detailed in the second stanza. When it comes to the second stanza, we can see the liveliness. More, the tree becomes more liveful. That surrounds the tree, further detailed in the second stanza, which tells a story of a baboon, kogilas, and cows in its vicinity, in its closest place. So when it comes to second stanza, she presents more living characters like a baboon, kogilas, and cows, animals, birds. And in the first stanza, it exclusively talks about what is on the tree. Still in the third stanza, the speaker tells us explains that it is not because of its magnificence. The tree is magnificent, that is, there is no doubt about that. Not only because of its magnificence, the tree is dear, that is dear to my soul, rather it because of her memories of her departed siblings are connected with the tree. Not only because of the magnificence of the tree is a magnificent one. There is no doubt about that. Along with that magnificence, she has a connection with this tree because of her memories of her departed siblings. At the thought of their death and their past memories, even the tree seems to lament and ushers forth an eerie speech. So she lost her siblings. I have already told you that her siblings were died due to the tuberculosis. The same disease happened to her in her age of 20. So they died because of that. So this tree shows the presence of her siblings in her mind. And she says that the tree is also lamenting like her. That's why it ushers forth an eerie speech. Sometimes the tree is delivering a sound that may be considered as a speech with sorrow, an eerie speech. In the fourth stanza, the speaker recalls various foreign shores, namely in France or Italy. When it comes to the fourth stanza, the poet may be thinking about a present time when she is abroad in Europe, that's in France or Italy, where she heard a noise similar to the tree's morning sighs, and recalled the tree and her own loud native climb. When she sees Casuarina like trees in his foreign land, she recollects. She tries to make a way for the images of Casuarina tree to her mind on loud native climb. But even though she sees many trees around her, but she finds only one thing that makes her happy, that is our own loud native climb and the tree. The poem closes the speaker in the closing of the poem, the speaker meditates on the deathless trees, the concept of the deathless trees. So this tree has to be deathless, then only my memories will be there, then only memories about me, then only my signature would be there. So this tree is considered as a main point, considered as a monument, considered as something that makes the memories stay forever, like the trees of Borrowdale. It was mentioned in the poem Wordsworth, that carry the same grim weight as those in William Wordsworth poem on yew trees, that is yew tree. Here it is Casuarina tree, which quotes fear, trembling, hope, and death, skeleton, and the shadow. Whatever change happens to the tree, let the tree be there. By contrast, the speaker tells us she yearns to return to the Casuarina tree for her youth, which she hopes will be saved from oblivion's curse. So finally, she expresses her wish to be a part of this surrounding. She wishes to go, and she wishes to be there near with the tree to recollect her sides of her childhood days. So she asks herself, or she asks to his memories that makes this be saved from oblivion's curse. Oblivion's curse is the capacity to forgetting things. But the poet says, I don't want to forget these images. I want to make these images always with me. In terms of its form, the poem is formed which way. The poem consists of 55 lines written in 5 stanzas of 11 lines each, that we have already gone through. Each stanza consists of an octave of 2 enclosed rhyme quatrains, that is about the meter of that, followed by a rhyming set, 3 lines. That is what you can see. The its overall rhyme scheme is quite different. You can see this. The closed rhyme of octave stanza allows to develop a new line of thought in each stanza. So all the lines are connected with that. So the poem is very mellifluous to be sung in the base of meter 2. So rhyming couplets are there that you can see. And the poem is a linkage of speaker's personal life and emotional state to the natural world that is not limited, however, to the Casuarina tree. So she uses the image of Casuarina tree to connect the poet's personal life and emotions, that you know. For example, the birds and bees singing their own sweet song from the tree's branches provide a solace to the poet through the night while men repose, which suggests that the poet lies sleepless at night, that can be soothed only by the sleeplessness at night, that can be soothed by the rhythms of the natural world. So since the poet lost her siblings, she had a great sorrow that made that didn't allow her to sleep. So while the world repose, while the men sleeps, while the men repose, she used to watch at the tree, and she heard from the trees that the voice of the tree, the sound of the tree in night, he was soothing only by rhythms. So she was very sad of that. So with the presence of this tree, her sorrows were soothed with the power of the tree. The grey baboon in second stanza, which sits like a statue alone on the top of the tree while she was watching the sunrise, also reinforces this idea, suggesting that the poet too has watched in solitude as the sun rises behind the Casuarina tree. So images of baboon. Baboon is standing at the top of the tree as alone, though there are many family members, his offsprings. So poet had also undergone through that kind of feel. She was alone, her home, in the absence of her siblings. That is what it is compared or mentioned as with the baboon. And in the third stanza, the speaker makes this linkage connection that is explicit as she explains that the tree's memory blend with images in her head or her departed siblings. So it is also the part of the memory to connecting memory and the shared mourning of the speaker and the tree. Both the speaker and the tree expressed their sorrow, conveyed by the dirge-like murmur. The tree that makes a sound, that's because of the wind and the birds. That's also resembling as the waves breaking on a pebble beach continues to reinforce this connection. So, like a tide that comes to the beach and it goes and it comes again. That's why her vision and her memory comes to the tree and it goes like the speaker's mind. This is why while the rest of the world transcend in a dreamless swoon, the speaker says, awake as the music of her youth, the music of the trees, the swims to her inner vision. So, though there are many other things to be remembered in her life, she remembers this Casuarina tree very much because it is a connecting point towards her personal feelings and emotions. In the final stanza, the speaker care distinguishes the trees of England from this our Casuarina tree. Of her youth further shows the way in which the speaker associates nature at large with her various emotions. So she happened to see many trees like Casuarina tree in England, but she can't get connected with the trees of her homeland. That was also mentioned in the last stanza. And the links of the poem not only to that preoccupation with the loss, the natural world, and the complexity of family relationship. So basically, she talks about preoccupation of her loss of her siblings. Along with that, it is also dealing with the natural world and the complexity of family relationships, but also to her interest in the nature of the poetic craft and how much of life's complexities can be accurately captured in a poetic format. So the poet expressed her great sorrow. She visualized her memories. So that is why it is highly autobiographical too. And this moment also lends itself to a larger interpretive discussion about how Toru Dutt envisions the potency of one of her major poetic projects. This is her choice to use English verse forms like that used by Wordsworth. So the poem itself has some connection to the Wordsworth's poem that was already mentioned. Who describes to seem Wordsworth seems to respect and dismiss the poem to describe Indian scenes like those of the trees and her youth. So her youth, her missings, her family life, her life at house, everything is compared and everything is mentioned in the poem. And about the poetic devices in Casuarina tree, symbolic presentation of the poet's memory associated with the Casuarina tree. So many symbolic elements are there, like the baboon is the symbol of loneliness, etc. Then using the subjective pronoun, he used that is not needed. The first stanza poet describes the creeper's strong hold on the tree, and the scare symbolically represents impact of colonialism on Indian culture and philosophy. That is, poem uses a rich imagery of trees and its appearance and descriptions of dawn and the memory of her loved ones connected with. The metaphor used the giant wears the scarf, trembling hope, the time the shadow, and like a huge python. Baboon sits like a statue, and the water lilies spring like snow and mist. These are the metaphors used to add the beauty of the poem and instates the poet's feelings too. These are the things that we can see in the case of the poem Our Casuarina Tree. So everything is mentioned in the lines itself. So go through the lines 2 or 3 times and have a greater understanding of the poem. Thank you for watching.